he is a symbol of Bayern. He is a guy that, if you think of Bayern Munich the last like 20 years, you think of him.
Hi and welcome to the German Fussball Podcast. I'm your host, Markus Fjortoft, and as always, joined by co-host Jan Fjortoft. Dad, always a pleasure to sit down with you. Another Bundesliga weekend, round 20 concluded. Before we got into it, Dad, how's the weekend been? I think you've been at home this weekend. Am I correct?
I have been home, which is rare, meaning that on Saturday I could follow all the games in Germany. Also in England, that's what you have to do, follow them. So I stayed home, worked in the studio on Sunday. So your Arsenal beat Liverpool 3-1. Saw them celebrating. That was not everybody's toast, but then again, they beat Liverpool, the league leader, very deservedly. A colleague of mine asked Arteta, "You had to win it twice, didn't you?" I thought that was a great question. I wrote that up because that was good, because after 1-1, you must expect Arsenal being a bit down, coming out with a downbeat, but they were brilliant, Marcus. So I saw that, and I see that you've got a new shirt. I mean, I bought you like 6,000 shirts in my life. I know you got a new shirt. Which one is this? Real Madrid?
Yes, it is. We're staying very loyal to the Bundesliga, Brenner. We started off with the Premier League and then now the Real Madrid. But to be fair, for anyone watching this on YouTube, for those on audio, they can't see this, but I got a Bellingham in the back here, which it actually was a gift from my very nice fiance, who heard me talking about Jude Bellingham so much, because I said, "Oh, Jude Bellingham, how good of a player is he?" I said, "Oh, look at Jude Bellingham. Oh, isn't he the perfect player? Oh, look at him." And then as a kind of like a fun gift, she gave me that one. And to be fair, that we were speaking before we went on, a good old long sleeve
they're good, aren't they?
it's a bit of a vintage, isn't it? It kind of went away and then came back, and then now, because I always ask for shirts from you, now I've kind of like found back to that sort of interest again, as you can see in the back, and then we have many more at home, and you have many more at home, and yours is a pretty good collection, to be fair, as well.
Yeah, but all the shorts, as you're saying, and when you see the shirts now, you can see some of the great shirts. I think Liverpool's away shirt at Emirates, they're good. I mean, I even like Tottenham away as good as them. There was two different shirts, weren't there? You will not go to a beach party with the Everton home shirt. I'm not saying not because they're a great club, they're a fantastic club, Everton, but you see that the second and an away shirt is always done to wear. And then if I put 20 years on my shirts, they are so like puffy, they're so big that you can't even use that. But great to have them, and good to see you with the long sleeves. And yes, I was starting with we have to start with Bayern, although
let's get into it.
Heidenheim Dortmund on Friday, what a terrible game that was. I mean, what could we say about Dortmund? It was just one of those performances of Dortmund, and I'm not saying we're used to them, but they were like one of those games that you will think, what was that all about? Why did they even turn up in Heidenheim? Could I just call them and said, shall we get a point each? That was a very, very no energy game. Yeah,
it was uninspiring. I mean, you could say that they're without some of their key creative players, most namely Julian Brandt, who I think has been Dortmund's best players, but even still, you'd expect something.
Sancho, they was all over the place. They miss Sancho. Sancho's been there for 3 minutes. I know they miss Sancho. That is also good. He has a bit trouble with an injury, but he wasn't even that. But 0-0, it's not good as long as you see Leipzig coming from behind, winning against Union Berlin. That was Marco Rose did 5 changes after the 5-2 loss against Stuttgart. Frankfurt, they had a sniff. I've just taken these 3 in a pack now, Marcus, because Frankfurt had a sniff on Champions League. They had some dreams. I spoke to some of the guys at the club today, and they were disappointed going to Cologne, losing 2-0. And that's how it is. Your expectations when you are close to the Champions League, you think, oh, we may dream. And I mean, wow, have they dreamt, and dreams are fulfilled in Frankfurt lately. But that was a big, bad result for Dortmund, because they were looking good now for a while.
They were, and if now we're discussing the rest of the pack, right? So we think we have Bayern, we have Leverkusen, Stuttgart somewhere in between. But yeah, Dortmund had edged himself back into the top four, and then the results certainly went for RB Leipzig. And Terzic had a bit of a dig at his players because he said after the game that they didn't deserve anything better. He said the guys who've been dissatisfied have been out of the team. I gave them the chance and they didn't take care of it, etc. Eintracht, you go away to Köln. Köln were in the relegation playoffs, and what a much needed 3 points were for them. But Eintracht be disappointed in Kunku and Tuta, both sent off. Schultz's first win for Köln. They really needed that win. But for RB Leipzig as well is one of those cases in which they go home to Union Berlin, and Union Berlin has a decent record at RB Leipzig. But you saw that when things clicked, you had Sesko and Openda scoring. You had Xavi Simons back. You had kind of everything was going the right way for them, and I would like to think they will make a top four. I certainly think at their best they're better than Dortmund, but again, it's about the consistency as well. But also going through these entirety of the games, we also have to give a well-deserved shout out to Heidenheim as well. That's 7 games undefeated in the Bundesliga for them, and they held Dortmund to their first goalless draw in 146 Bundesliga games. And it's the second time only this season that Dortmund have failed to score, and that was against Bayern Munich. So credit to Heidenheim where credit is due as well.
Absolutely, and if you have a look at the table now, you just feel that they don't need so many. Of course, they need wins to stay. It's not enough what they're having, but there is a space down now for Heidenheim. You have to give them to them. But I guess one of the results of the round, Markus, you were saying Stuttgart up there. Was it 3 or 4 losses in the Bundesliga? And then they were winning 5-2 against Leipzig. And everybody thought, well, can I do this again? Going to Freiburg, it's never easy to go to Freiburg and get the points. And took all 3 points. And our friend Undav, who's going to give the whole Germany hope for the Euro, he was on it again. And Stuttgart is up there. There's something about this team. And still without Guirassy, isn't it? So they're winning. They're 8 goals now in 2 games. I mean, that is Champions League form for them. So, Leipzig and Dortmund, be aware. Stuttgart is up there. And we've talked about Sebastian Hoeneß before, but still he's doing a fantastic job. And not only do they win football games, they're so entertaining to watch all the time.
Exactly. And this game, they played against a Freiburg team who are also, well established in the European spots, are around 7th spot there, winning 3-1. 2 very early goals within 7 minutes, pretty much. Undav with the goal, then Furish. Undav now has 17 Bundesliga goal involvements. He has 13 goals, 4 assists, 1 goal and 2 assists at the weekend. Freiburg got a goal back, but then Mittelstadt, from another Undav assist, finished the game off 3-1 to Stuttgart. And as you said, 3 Bundesliga losses in 4 Bundesliga games without their star striker Guirassy. You think, is it one of those in which you come back to the Rückrunde and you're a bit, maybe you've kind of peaked already? But fair play to them. 2 very convincing wins against 2 top half of the table teams as well. And their first win against Freiburg since 2018. I was saying there with the Leipzig as well, it was good to see. We had both Willi Orban, who's their defensive stalwart. He was back after 5 months back there. And Peter Gulaschi, the goalkeeper. He was back as well for their clean sheet. Should we go Leipzig?
I think we could talk about 3-1. I mean, we can take an apropos, as our your granddad always say.
Very inside joke.
Yeah, it was our dad, my dad, your granddad.
Two listeners who understand this.
2 listeners, you and me, and we explain it to each other. When we are on one case, he will have a bridge to something that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But so I will have a good bridge for you, talking about 3-1. Bayern winning 3-1 at home against Gladbach. Leverkusen winning 2-0 in Darmstadt. And I put them in a package, Markus, because we are going to do a special episode on the top game coming up on Saturday, the 10th of February. It's Leverkusen against Bayern. It's an early title decider there. But first of all, a myth. When we hear a player say, yeah, we just take one game at a time, we don't care about what the other team, they care about everything people doing. And I swear to God, there is none who are not on the pitch in Darmstadt for Leverkusen. Everybody sitting outside was listening to or knew, were notified when Gladbach was 1-0 up against Bayern. They all knew about that. And they had a hope, of course, because Gladbach has been a Angstgegner, a opposition that they've feared, because I think that is them and Augsburg are the teams who are taking most points away from Bayern the last seasons. And now, mind you, Bayern has played both Augsburg away and they've played Gladbach at home and for 6 points. Again, Pavlovic, the 19-year-old is still 19, doing it for them. Harry Kane scoring, Thomas Müller involved in everything, and so on and so on. Impressive for Bayern. It was not like they were entertaining. It's not like they just took, but they just did what they had to do, put themselves for a good challenge of Leverkusen, Markus.
Yes, indeed. Pavlovic, he scores in back-to-back games. The 19-year-old is his first goal at the Allianz Arena as well. However, Gladbach took the lead. Elvedi loved the little centre-back play in which he broke up a weak-ish pass from Neuer, advanced, did a little 1-2, goal 1-0. And Gladbach very much went by the same approach as they went with Leverkusen, laid deep, hoped for the best, and they were 1-0 up in the lead. But then Bayern won deservedly, goes through Pavlovic, Kane, and De Ligt. And Kane,
happy for De Ligt, Markus. Happy for De Ligt. He's been under criticism from the press mostly, because they say that they read everything into what Tuchel is saying. Upamecano is out, of course, so then he goes up in the starting orders. But they will say he's the third choice for them. Mind you, he came from Juventus, was seen as the man who will sort everything out at the back. So I'm happy for De Ligt scoring his goal. But I mean, what should we say about Harry Kane? Was that his 24th now? Correct. 24th Bundesliga goal. Still 17 up to the unbeatable record of Robert Lewandowski, who then beat the unbeatable record of Gerd Müller. But Harry Kane, you can never know, because he will be up there. He scores penalties, he scores headers, right foot, left foot. So he's up there. It's going to be one hell of a game against Leverkusen. And Leverkusen did what they had to do. There was nothing to think of that could be something they threw away. I mean, they're too professional. They are too Alonso team doing that. There was never that feeling. But again, Markus, a guy that hasn't played a lot, maybe not a usual suspect getting goals.
No, it wasn't. It was Nathan Tella's first league start of the season. Maybe you rested someone like Frimpong, but so typical of Leverkusen and the way they play as well is, so Leverkusen win 2-0 away to Darmstadt. The first goal in which Grimaldo, the left wing back, crosses over from a deeper run from the right wing back in Nathan Tella there. And then he has a great finish for the second one as well. It's Leverkusen's 16th Bundesliga win in 20 games. They have now 52 points, and that's 2 more points than they had the entirety of last season when they ended up on 50 points. For them, it was also one of those in which you wanted someone like Granit Xhaka, who, by the way, played an excellent game. You wanted for him to avoid a yellow card, so he would be available for the
true.
game.
He avoided that, didn't he?
He did avoid that game, and you want the best players playing these games too, right?
Absolutely.
So you have now Tapsoba coming back from the AFCON for Leverkusen, so they'll have pretty much everyone there except for Kosunu, who is still at the AFCON. But even
Boniface
still,
injured.
Boniface injured. So for them, it's good. For Bayern, Alphonso Davies now injured, so he misses the next couple of weeks, which just adds to their injury concerns. So certainly Leverkusen, who are more favorable in the injury situation. Now, we will do a preview this week, so that's why we won't go all too much into detail. But even still, it's one of those, they're 2 points away from each other. We have a title showdown on our hands, and that's great for the Bundesliga and great for world football to have a look at, because this game I am very much looking forward to.
and the optimism of us seeing that there's going to be an excitement all the way in, and then if we take it, is it called empiry also in English? I mean, the based on the experience we have in games like this. But at the other times, there's been Bayern playing against Dortmund away from home. I remember back in the days, there was a deflected shot from Kimmich, decider. I also, if I'm not wrong, it's a chip from him and everything. So you just got a feeling this would be a 1-0 win for Bayern. Goretzka would probably scored one of the best scores he's ever scored. And Leverkusen will have their first loss of the season. But the good thing about it is that you know that's going to be a great game. Leverkusen wants to control the games. Bayern got the individual players there. Bayern being a challenger seems also like a perfect position for them. But we'll talk more about that in our special episode. We are more or less a countdown for that big game in Germany. And then, Markus, just to conclude the Bundesliga, Bremen winning in Mainz. What's going on in Bremen?
Fantastic to see Bremen and a podcast guest and a good teammate, a good friend of yours, Rune Bratseth, the Bremen legend. He will be delighted to see this because now they're getting close to European spots, which we haven't seen in a good while. They've now won their last 3 Bundesliga games. They're unbeaten in 7. They're 9th in the table, just 5 points away from the European places. They celebrated their birthday yesterday, 125th kind of birthday since they were founded. So a good time to be a Bremen fan. Marvin Dirks scored within 2 minutes, and they won. So it's it's exciting to see, and you see how quickly things can change when you're in a bit of good run of form. But credit to Ole Werner because he's been under a bit of pressure, and last season they started well, and then it kind of as the season developed, they were almost getting involved in the relegation fight. But now as well, they've established themselves very much mid-table and will obviously stay up as a consequence. So credit where credit is due for Bremen.
Absolutely, Markus, and I will give our listeners a good some insight on a new player for Bayern, and I have to put up my glasses now because I don't want this to be the wrong name. His name is Jona Kusi Azare. Forgive me if I didn't spell it wrong, but I pronounced it wrong. I will just come to him and give you some inside information. New Bayern player, 16 years of age. We just summarize our Zweite Bundesliga, Markus, before we go. Hamburg winning away from home against Hertha Berlin. St. Pauli in the big game, winning 3-2 against Fürth. And Kiel playing 1-1 in Magdeburg. So, meaning that Hamburger Sportsverein is back in the top 2. Mind you, 2 is going up. We all know what will happen, but we still say it. Hamburg is number 2. This is not a test. The test is when they have to play the relegation game at the end of the season, where they will lose against the third last in the first Bundesliga. I'm just saying it for all Hamburger Sportsverein fans out there. And mind you, I have followed them a lot because they were a great, great team back in the 70s or 80s. No, Markus, what I wanted to do is that there's always a talk about the big names of signings that we do in the Bundesliga. But then with Christopher Freund, we have got a man at Bayern that's also looking at the long term. And Christopher Freund, it has to see for the future. I know they've signed one of the greatest talent in Swedish football. He was just over 16 when he made his debut for AIK, youngest ever doing that. He had his background from Brommapojkarna that we, Markus, know, because when we played international tournament with your team back in the days, Brommapojkarna was a great team. Yeah, developing players. So I have asked my colleague Henrik from Viaplay Sweden, who knows Brommapojkarna and knows Jona very well. So listen to what he is saying about Bayern's new sensational young talent from Sweden.
Jona Kusiasare is one of the greatest talents in the Swedish football for the moment. He's only 16 years old, and he's had his whole career until last year in Brommapojkarna. He's famous for creating young, good players. Jona is a very tall guy. He's around 195, so yeah, he's not fully grown yet with his body, but he has an amazing first touch, and he has an eye for a goal, and he's a great goal scorer. Still got a lot of things to learn, and he has a good heritage from his father, Jones Kusiasare, who once scored a lot of goals for Djurgården in Stockholm and won the Swedish league for Djurgården as well. He was a great striker, so he can learn his son a lot. But I think that Jona, okay, that's great for Bayern and for him, for their career, but still he has a lot to learn. He's a young player, and the year in AIK last year, when he didn't start a match in the Swedish league, that learned him a lot, and he sort of grown up a bit from when he left Brommapojkarna, but still very young player and a good prospect, but we'll see for the future if he'll be that great Bundesliga player for Bayern.
Thanks to my colleague, over 20 years we've been together, Henrik Strömblad from Viaplay Sweden, giving us that insight of that young starlet coming to the Bundesliga. He hasn't started yet, Markus, and we always end our episodes with the player of the round. So this time I will challenge you.
Yes, my player of the round will be, and it's one that I have had as my player of the round before, but my player of the round is Deniz Undav. I love
he's our new Fulcrum.
I will. You know what I thought? I thought I'm gonna do his kind of lobbying, because if this is the first time you've listened to our episode, if it's the 13th or the 14th, look into this man's story. In a football world in which players come through academies, in which it's very much a kind of standard formula, so to speak, for the very best players to say, yeah, I could see he was a star from when he was 15, 16. Not for Deniz Undav. When he was signed for Brighton in January 2022, that was his third season as a professional. He was 24, 25 years old. He's a journeyman. He was released from Bremen, had to kind of find his way, ended up at Union Saint-Gilloise, where he eventually did well enough to get interest from Brighton. And he was pretty humble and pretty kind of realistic in terms of the situation, whether he wasn't playing or not, saying, listen, I'm still new to this game. I can put things in perspective. And he has just been humble throughout. I would love to play for Germany, said, if I do well enough, etc. Now, Deniz Undav didn't enter the frame until game day 6, because Sero Guirassy had such a fantastic start to the Bundesliga campaign that Undav didn't play. He was on the bench. Then he came in, took his chance, and then Hoeneß said, okay, I'm going to have to move away from the one up top. I'm going to have to play with two up top. Guirassy goes to AFCON, no problem. Undav is here. Last week, he had a hat-trick. This week, he had a goal and 2 assists. And come international games in March, he will certainly get his chance from Nagelsmann, and very much in the frame to have an involvement in Euros. And what a journey that is. So Deniz Undav is my man yet again.
Great choice, Markus. I will, in my man or player of the round, go the complete other way. I will go to Munich. I will go to Germany. I will go to Bundesliga. And the reason I say this is he could be a poster boy. Well, he is a poster boy for all these institutions in Germany. He has 690 games for Bayern Munich. He got his 500th win for Bayern Munich. I'm talking, of course, of Thomas Müller. He is a symbol of Bayern. He is a guy that, if you think of Bayern Munich the last 20 years, you think of him. He's 16 games away now from, take the record from Sepp Maier, their legendary goalkeeper. So he could catch it this season. 14 games ago in the Bundesliga, at least 2 games in the Champions League, playing Lazio. So if they go to the next round and they play all games, but still, he got 1 year left of his contract. Thomas Müller, I watched the game again. It's not like he's always have assists, but he got amazing number of assists. So he's always there, like he did. I guess it was for Pavlovic. He was directly involved, but then even at Kane's goal, he was there. He was in and around. If you look at Thomas Müller, and you say, this is a superstar. And you say, what? Is that a superstar? A superstar doesn't look like this. What is his strength? Is it technique, his shot, his pace? No, it's just everything. Thomas Müller is, for me, the player of the round, not only because of one game, because the numbers we are looking at, history is making, won everything. He has won the World Cup. He's won the Champions League a couple of times and all that kind of time. And by the way, he's a funny and a very nice man also to interview. Always a trick somewhere in his personality. He's a great, great player for Bayern. And Markus, before I will take on your challenge, I will say that the rumor of the week, so to say, Christian Falk, the friend of a podcast, and we all love Christian. He was talking about Hansi Flick, former Bayern manager, former Germany manager. He's taking Spanish lesson. When we know then that Xavi will leave after the season, we know that the Barcelona president Laporte has been interested in Hansi Flick before. I don't think he just doing to order some beer at the beach port of Barcelona. So Hansi Flick, a great candidate, maybe the favorite now to be the new manager of Barcelona Football Club. But Markus, you always give me a challenge, and you've done that, and we do that on purpose, because you give me a challenge for top 5 the day that we're doing the podcast.
Yeah. I can't give you too much time to think, but I also think that you would pull your hair out if you have to think too much, because these are the big questions. You're forced to reflect on an entire career, Dad. And now I asked you for the top 5 goal scorers, I'd say, then you played against, because where do we differentiate between types of strikers, number 10s who come in? So I thought, okay, let's just make it pure and simple goal scorer, number 9s, who you played against. And no disrespect to your career, you had a fantastic career, but I'd argue maybe you played against some better ones that you played with, even though we're going to do that list as well, of course.
Yeah, thank you, Markus. That is a challenge, because I am privileged in my generation playing in 4 different countries, playing for my national team, playing at the World Cup for my national team. So I played a lot of great strikers, too good sometimes, because they hammered us and scored goals against my team. But I first have to say, it's what are you saying about the number 9? Meaning that Cantona won't be there, Dennis Bergkamp won't be there, Mathieu Letizia won't be there, but they would have been up there by some of the greatest attackers I've ever played with. I'm trying to go as clean as a number 9 that I can. But like I said, when I took the stadiums, it was always a bit feeling. How do I like that? What kind of relationship do I have to them? And P.S., I am so afraid that I've forgotten someone, because I
have. I'm going to say
I probably have. So, but still, this is my first take on it. I will start, Markus, as number 5, and it's a German striker. This is Jürgen Klinsmann. I played against Jürgen Klinsmann both in the Premier League when he had that successful spell, the first spell at Tottenham. He was fantastic. He came with an image of a diver, and he scored his first game. He dived, became very, very popular in England. I remember I played when I was at Barnsley. He came to Barnsley, who had the smallest dressing room in the history of the Premier League. It's not possible to have smaller dressing rooms. I remember we were standing in the corridor. Our dressing room compared with the away dressing room was big. So, and he was looking in and we started just laughing. But Jürgen Klinsmann, I played against him for the first time when he was at that fantastic Inter team who won the UEFA Cup that year. They knocked out us very early, but still we nearly knocked them out. We won 2-1 in Vienna, and a scandalous referee in Milano got us 2 men sent off, but they're still ending up 3-1. That was the Inter team with Matthäus, Andy Bremer, and Jürgen Klinsmann. So Klinsmann is number 5. I also have the pleasure to be in touch with him after my career. He's doing well for South Korea now. I congratulated him, and he was over the moon. So Jürgen Klinsmann, I will have him as number 5. I just want to get the numbers right now. I remember the players. Number 4, striker that I will nearly say is underestimated. That is Andy Cole. Andy Cole played for the best Manchester United team, maybe of all time. Nearly that he was underestimated in terms of his contribution to the Manchester United team. He was excellent. Excellent, I don't have to say that. An excellent goal scorer, of course, with Dwight York, a lethal partnership. But there were 4 of them. They have Cole, York, Sheringham, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And then they had Cantona, then they had Scholes, then they had the Nevilles, then they have David Beckham, and so on and so on. So it was nearly underestimated player, a fantastic football player. And he came from Newcastle, of course, one of the greatest signing of Sir Alex Ferguson to get him away from there. Gillespie went the other way. Fantastic work to get him there. I will put on my glasses again, Marcus, because I played against this player just at the end of his career. He wasn't then the top of his game, but it was nearly a dream to play against Ian Rush. I remember, if the memory doesn't do me a trick on me, I think that the last game he played for Liverpool, I was sitting with him next on the bench. The old Anfield, the benches was very close. And I remember during the second half or first half, I can't remember, I took up a program and I said, this is for my son, that's for you. But of course, that was just going into the collection of Ian Rush. He was a fantastic goal scorer. Just have a look at YouTube. He was one of the best goal scorer you will ever see. He was Welsh international, played 1 year in Juventus, but it was all about Liverpool. When he left Liverpool, he didn't have the same amount of goals, but the partnership he had with Kenny Dalglish, Ian Rush, got to be there. I'm pleased and proud that I could play with him during my football career, and I've been in some charity games with him. Worked all the time. He was like 100 years, and he played in these games, and he was working all the park when we played even charity games. Number two is a special striker for me, and I've told this story before. Not only was he a great goal scorer, but he was also one of these players that every defender in the world hate to play against. I'm talking about Ian Wright. Ian Wright was everything. I mean, the way he was running around, it looks like he was every part of his body was kind of moving away. You have players who runs only with their feet. He was running with the whole body. He was over there annoying defenders to their death, but he was a fantastic goal scorer. I mean, you had to find Thierry Henry to beat his goal record at Arsenal. Ian Wright, wow, a fantastic player. And Marcus, I know I told the story before, but a very good man, a very great personality. When I was struggling at Swindon, we played Arsenal. I'll never forget it. He came over to me and said, I was so out of confidence. I was on a bench for Arsenal, against Arsenal for Swindon Town in the Premier League. And he just came over me and told me, Jan, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. Just be patient. You will sort this out. And for him, he would have forgotten it when he came in to have his first pint in the Players' Lounge. But for me, it meant everything. So Ian Wright is my number two. And I guess then people will understand that I'm in England. I mean, there's no way I can come around Alan Shearer. As Alan Shearer was the years that I played in English football, he was enormous. I mean, just check out all his records. He won the league with Blackburn, could have gone to Manchester United, went where his boyhood dream was to play as a number 9 for Newcastle. A fantastic player, did ever so well for England as well as the number 9. Remember the 1996 Euros, fantastic goal against Holland. He's as nice as you can be, great bloke. He's a very good pundit. He's one of my favorite podcasts, Rest is Football, with him, Michael Richards and Gary Lineker. Much funnier than people thought, I guess. That was a podcast. I remember once we had a penalty against us at the Riverside Stadium, and he was about to do his shot, and I said, I get a tenner that you miss. And he said, you have a deal. And of course he didn't miss. So in the Players' Lounge, I had to pay him out. We played Barnsley at St. James's Park. I gave everything to get an equaliser. 1-1 against Shay Given. I broke my rib because I went for a rebound, was dragged off. I thought, wow, I saved a point for Barnsley. Lying on the bench in the St. James's away dressing room, hear a shout, and it's only one Alan Shearer running away with his, and I would say, annoying one hand up, running away, and he scored a winner, and he scored winners everywhere. And not only did he score a lot of goals, Marcus, some of his goals are some of the most beautiful goals you've seen in the top division of English football. So my number one, the best striker I've ever played against, is Alan Shearer.
Thank you for that, Lestad. Always great to hear the little anecdotes as well from some legendary strikers at that. Before we conclude that, I just have to remind the audience that we have some German Cup games this week as well. We have Leverkusen playing Stuttgart tomorrow in the Cup, which will be a very interesting matchup because whoever wins that, I think, will be a strong favorite. And then you have Gladbach against the story of this cup. The great story of this cup is Saarbrücken, who are playing against Gladbach. The winners of those will meet Fortuna Düsseldorf and or Kaiserslautern, because last week Fortuna Düsseldorf beat St. Pauli on penalties, while Kaiserslautern beat Hertha Berlin away, and Mainz and Union Berlin played their game in hand on Wednesday to conclude their 20th Bundesliga round. So we'll look at that with interest, and then you'll hear back from us at the end of the week as we do our preview of the Leverkusen Bayern game, the title showdown, which we can't wait for, which the world of football, I think, can't wait for either. So that, as always, a pleasure, and then we'll catch up very soon.
We will, and the special episode will also, we need to have a look at the game against Stuttgart, because Leverkusen, is it an advantage for them because they have to go full there, because that could be one title. They're up for the double, Leverkusen. They can end up with 0, as Leverkusen normally does, and we'll see how that pressure will handle them. If you listen to this episode from somewhere, please subscribe. Just you find that place. Even I can find that place. After we had the club stories and Alonso stories, we got so many new subscribers. Thank you to everybody listening in. But if you're new here, and you know the world of social media just spreading all around, so if you're new listening to us, have a little button, find it and subscribe. It's much appreciated. We love to speak about German football and other things happening, Marcus. Till next time, in your Jude Bellingham shirt, we'll auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.